The following is a production of the Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network.
Well, here we are once again. Larry Fisher, UFHL Insider. My name is Dean Millard, proud owner of Duckman's Domination. And I don't know, doing this show, Larry, makes me thirsty. So have a little sip out of this Duckman's Domination mug. Awesome, great deals at the UFHL shop. So people should check that out. And Larry, we have, this is kind of our last show before we get to Christmas. We're going to have a UFWJ preview show, and we're going to have a year in review show, so people should be excited about that. But this is kind of the last one before we break for Christmas, and strangely, we don't have any kind of breaking news to talk about as much as we've had for the past few weeks. So I don't know where we should start here.
Well, Dean, I hate to break it to you, but we do have some more breaking news, and it actually pertains directly to yourself. And this has been something, Dean, that's been in the works for a couple months now, basically since the start of the season. But UFHL Now and the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League has decided to go in a new direction for the new year. And we've actually hired a new host for UFHL Now. So unfortunately, you're no longer going to be the UFHL Now host, Dean.
What? Is this not April 1st? This can't be an April Fool's Day joke. Okay. All right. So this has been a lot of fun. And yes, this is a busy time for me, and will be a very busy time with heading up baseball. So without hamming it up anymore, let's bring in and introduce the new host, the man who will be taking this chair in the new year for UFHL Now. All right, I've hammed things up enough. Let's bring in the new host of UFHL Now, Kyle Hall. Kyle, it's great to have you aboard. It's been great to have you as a fly on the wall the last little while, and I'll throw things over to Larry to introduce you a little bit more to our viewers.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Kyle. Big shoes to fill. Obviously, Dean's done a great job with UFHL Now and UFSN over the past couple seasons, but it's good to always have a new voice and a new host as well. And I know you've been following the UFHL for at least a few months now. Like Dean said, a fly on the wall in the Telegram group. Some of the owners are saying, "Hey, who's this Kyle Hall guy? Why is he still in the owners group? Is he a assistant GM, or who's he affiliated with?" But so nonetheless, now the cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows Kyle Hall is the brand new UFHL Now host starting in the new year. But how did you first hear about the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, Kyle? What attracted you to the UFHL, and what made you want to get involved with the UFHL Now show?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys. This is awesome. Like you said, Dean did a fantastic job, so it's a true honor to fill in for him and try to fill that void that he's going to leave, because you guys did a great job. I watch every week. So yeah, I got involved. I write for Belly Up Sports. I'm a hockey writer. I cover the New York Rangers for them, and I host my own podcast. So because of that, I follow a lot of former Rangers, and Ryan Malone, who is very involved in UFHL and UFFS, is obviously very promotes it very well on Twitter. So when I was checking out Ryan's stuff, he was posting about it, and it piqued my interest because I'm a big fantasy hockey fan, and anything to do with hockey, obviously, I want to look at and take a look at, and started following from there. I checked out the website, was kind of figuring out, like, do I want to get involved in scouting? I want to do something with this league, because it's very cool to have basically professional fantasy sport where big money at stake. It mirrors everything in the NHL. Anything that happens in the NHL is a direct impact on this league. So I thought it was extremely cool, a cool opportunity to try to get involved in something that I think is going to be the future of fantasy sport. And then, we started talking to some people, and I got thrown into the Telegram conversations and started hearing all the smack talk and all the owners going back and forth. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Started following a lot of the organizations. And I think before the season, Larry and I were talking about the power rankings and looking at the teams. And I thought from that on, I was like, yeah, let's get involved with this. Let's figure this out. And led to me now being the host of the show, which is very cool. And like I said, it's big shoes to fill. Dean's done a great job.
I like to call the power rankings the Arlo Scholes honorary power rankings, just because I like to needle. So, the fun thing about being the host of this show and also an owner is I get to give them back and forth. But I think you're going to be just fit perfectly in, Kyle. I think it's going to be awesome. So tell everybody a little bit about your show that you do, and about a little bit about your background, a little bit more about covering professional hockey, and now to be covering professional fantasy hockey.
Yeah, so I'm a writer at Belly Up Sports, covering the New York Rangers. I'm the New York Rangers writer there. And last year, started my own podcast, the Broadway Hat Podcast, which focuses mostly on the New York Rangers, but we talk about pretty much a lot of the NHL in general too. But it's very unique in the fact that each week we have an interview with a former New York Ranger or some type of a media member that comes on the show. So we're up to 53 episodes now, actually just hit our 1-year anniversary. And we've had 61 different guests on. And, it ranges from Stanley Cup champions to play-by-play guys to, radio hosts. Basically, anyone who's really involved with the Rangers or has been with the Rangers, we try to get on the show. And, again, led me tracking down Ryan Malone and hopefully setting up an interview with him. We've gone back and forth. We were waiting, actually, until this kind of came. This kind of was an opportunity that came while we were talking. And, we were waiting to kind of get together and to kind of announce this and his new NFT that just came out. So all that kind of came and led to this great opportunity. So I'm really excited. And not only because I cover the Rangers now, but really, I watch the entire NHL. I'm a fantasy hockey nut. I think I have 3 different leagues I'm in this year. Not the high stakes as the UFHL is, but, still some high stakes. But yeah, so I'm pumped to cover more of a national game now, and I mean this goes deep. This goes in the prospects. I mean, we were talking before the show about Dean's prospects he's got, and what the draft is coming up. So I'm super excited about that. And I had a draft show with the Rangers, and I'm listening. You can pay attention to 20 kids, but they're only gonna get 1 kid. So what am I gonna do with the knowledge of those 20 other kids? So this is great.
Absolutely. And Dean always says we cover the UFHL like the NHL and cover it like a professional fantasy league because it deserves it and warrants it. And so great to have you on board. And like I said, to be able to cover it, cover the entire league, but cover this league as if you were covering, the NHL. And now that you're involved and you're in the know, I'm just curious, Kyle, what storylines have you been following in the UFHL this season? What are you most looking forward to in the new year? And I know you mentioned the power rankings and kind of going through those with me in the preseason, and not going to put you on the spot as to how your power rankings are holding up. But do you have any predictions on how the UFHL season will play out? Who's winning the Founders Trophy as the regular season champ? Because obviously there's quite a battle at the top. But what storylines are standing out for you as of today?
I think the Titans. I think that I had them high on my power ratings to start the year off, but they're my favorite right now, I think, to win the regular season. I think a surprise team who I didn't have very high in my preseason power rankings, which I like right now, is the Stingrays. I think they're in 6th place. Last time I saw was last time they were in 6th place. And I was concerned about their goaltending coming into the year. But Cam Talbot has done a really good job in Minnesota, and I think that's a pretty big surprise. Obviously covering the Rangers, I'm a big Cam Talbot fan from his days in New York. Probably one of the best masks in all of hockey, has been for years. So I always root for Cam. But I honestly, he had a good playoff last year, but I didn't see him taking this big step that he did this year. Minnesota, it's a team that's kind of been up and down over the last couple of years, but they've he's really figured it out there, I think, now. So I think that's been great for the Stingrays. I think the Royals were another team that I thought were going to be a solid team, but I think they're overperforming for where I thought they were going to be. But again, Ovechkin's just a beast, and anytime you have him on your team, you're looking pretty good. And I think he's still leading the league. I think as of last night in points scored, which is incredible at his age. He just doesn't slow down at all. So I mean, and I think they have Huberdeau, I think too, right? I think they have Huberdeau on that team too. So pretty good 1-2 up front to kind of to get them rolling. But I like the Titans. I think they're a really solid team up and down. I think they're my favorites.
Well, and you know what? The Royals might end up finishing second, which is good because their GM their GM Arnie Entz will be used to finishing second after the World Juniors. So him and I are going back and forth a little bit when it comes to that in the World Junior thing. And so he somehow thinks he's going to win gold when he must, gold, the silver color must look gold to him. So I'm not sure. So maybe, but maybe they'll be used to it. But there's an incredible race at the top. I think there's also some really hidden gems in the UFHL. And I'm not talking about teams that are at the bottom rebuilding. I'm talking about teams that maybe people are overlooking. Are there some underrated rosters when you look at the UFHL?
Yeah, I got two teams that I like a lot that are kind of mid-pack right now. The Gators, I like their team a lot. I think they're 9th place right now, so they're right in the top 10, but on the back end. And the Ice Vikings, too. I had them rated high in my preseason ratings. I like their roster a lot. I just think that's a team that, look at the players they have. They can get hot and make some noise, I think. So those are the two teams that I'm kind of looking out for that's kind of towards the middle of the pack.
Yeah, the Ice Vikings came from the back of the pack last year, Dean. They weren't at the trade deadline. They were, I think, 3rd or 4th and made the run. And certainly, Evander Kane being MIA is a big blow to the Ice Vikings. And then you got Semyon Varlamov, who finally got his first win of the season this week. And
that's who I think
he
can
could
be the
turn it up
for them.
Yeah, he could definitely turn it up. That was a big blockbuster last season. Semyon Varlamov for John Gibson. And look at Gibson this year. He's got Anaheim at the top of the Pacific Division, and Varlamov and the Islanders are at the bottom of the Metro. So I think you're right. That could balance it out as Varlamov comes on. And they got a lot of guys that are underperforming a little bit, even some of the Rangers that are going to get on the score sheet more likely in the second half. And then the Gators, I mean, again, injuries, they went a large part of the first quarter of the season without Nathan McKinnon. He's back. He's going to be a big part of Colorado. And prior to their injuries, the Gators in the first couple weeks of the season were right there in that 1-4 range. So they could certainly trend up. And as we see with the Titans, Dean, you can make up that ground. They made up over 150 points in a week. So even though the top 10 separated by 300 points, that's only a couple weeks if you get really hot. So certainly the Ice Vikings and Gators are a factor. And I think Kyle's going to have a new friend. He brought up the Stingrays. That's Arlo Scholz's franchise. So I'm sure Arlo was pumped to hear the praise for the Stingrays. Dean and Arlo have a rivalry of sorts. So I think Arlo has a new favorite host in Kyle. But Kyle, what's next for UFHL Now? What's going to be new when you take over as host in the new year? What do you have in the works? And care to give our viewers a little bit of a taste as to how the show might be different or sort of how you want to put your fingerprints on UFHL Now?
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I think the show is really good as is, but I do want to do more interviews with guys, be it owners, GMs, trying to get some of these players now who have these NFTs that directly impact their fantasy, their fantasy numbers directly impact the value of that. So to, kind of hear from the players that are associated with the league, hear from the GMs that are associated, hear from the owners, and just really, let them have a voice on the show and get the smack talk directly from them instead of on Telegram and have my phone blow up every 5 seconds from someone yelling at each other. But I want to get more involvement from the league, and also I think you guys do a great job with segments. We're gonna keep on doing segments, like a top 5, top 6. Players of the week, who's up, who's down. And I think that'll be good, not only because, one, if your player's in the top 5, you'll probably feel pretty good about it. But bottom 6, maybe we get some trade conversations rolling. Maybe some guys that are trending downward, they don't want to see that same name on the list a couple times. They start getting a little antsy about seeing their guys on the graphic and maybe get them moved.
Well, I'll tell you the key to successful, I think, with this show is, it's a good thing that you're going to do that. Getting to know the owners. For me, I get to know them in a different way. For you, you'll be able to interview them and bring them out. But just make sure that the insider is a big part of your show, because there are there are so many people that look forward to whether it's Larry talking about their team or somebody else's team or the scuttlebutt. It really is the key, the glue that holds this show together. So hosts come and go. The insider, that's what keeps it going. And Kyle, I'm really looking forward to you taking this show to new heights. And I'm always around if you need a vacation and you guys ever need a fill-in host.
Yeah, no, Larry's not going anywhere. Believe me, he's my insider. He's got more information than anyone else in this league. I think people just text him at 3 a.m. Questions about trades. So he knows everything, that guy.
He does indeed.
I was a little worried there. Oh, I was just going to say, I was a little worried there. Kyle was going through the segments, and the insider wasn't part of it. I thought we were both getting fired today, Dean. I thought he
said we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're keeping a lot of stuff the same. I said you guys did a great job. That's you included.
You're
Dean's
safe, Larry.
Lost.
You're safe, Larry. You're safe, Larry. So that's good. Excellent stuff. I think this is it's going to be a great show. Continued success with everything on the broadcast side, Kyle, and I look forward to you taking over this show in January. Not done yet. Larry and I will wrap up the show, but we also have a UFWJ preview show that'll come out Monday and a year in review. So I still got a couple of more to go, and hopefully there's still more breaking news left for you guys, because man, Larry's been pumping that breaking news out like it's candy at Christmas. But great stuff, Kyle. Look forward to hearing more regularly from you in the new year in this chair. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. D, next time you come on, you'll be a guest as an owner.
Aha. Won't that be rare? All right, Larry and I are going to get into the rest of the show in just a second. Okay, Larry, seems like there's a new sheriff in town, but this sheriff still has a few more shifts. As mentioned, we've got the UFWJ preview show. You and I are going to do a year in review show, and we have to finish this show. I still have to finish the job. And speaking of Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors, that's where we're heading to next on UFHL Now.
Yeah, Dean, big draft weekend. Today's UFWJ Draft Eve, and very exciting for tomorrow. Obviously, tomorrow and Sunday, both days starting at noon Eastern. We're going to draft out the UFWJ, Dean, and every single player at this year's World Juniors will be drafted, all 250, 25 players per 10 countries. Same roster configuration. Each of these 10 countries will draft 14 forwards, 8 defenders, 3 goaltenders, and then the dynasty aspect, Dean, because this is a dynasty league, there'll be 5 protected lists of any position. You can draft 5 players that you think will be at future World Junior tournaments. That'll be very unique and cool. And then also, obviously, your returnees, right? If you draft younger players, there's potential they could be at multiple World Juniors. So it's going to be very cool to see the draft strategy, but the actual draft order, Mooch and Jeff Ray and Mick Portoni with the Republic of the Seven Seas are going to kick us off tomorrow with the first overall pick. And then, it's going to be very exciting to see. Same draft order for all 30 rounds, Dean. 15 rounds tomorrow, and then everybody gets to regroup for Sunday for the back half of the draft, the final 15 rounds. But can't wait to see all the different draft strategies and really see these franchises take shape ahead of this year's tournament.
And I thought some real responsible and great discussions took place at the owners' meetings last weekend, a week before the draft, to be able to discuss some things and make some, I think, important and really good changes.
Yeah, Dean. So scoring system was a big talking point because, again, this has never been done before, and especially in year one, it's going to be a lot of manual tracking. It's not through the gameplay engine. So just getting the right scoring system, but the right values, considering all the different scenarios in the tournament with some weaker franchise stuff. We didn't want plus minus. We didn't want the goaltenders to get hit overly hard if they did have a blowout loss. So just finding that right balance with the scoring system. But when we got to the meeting, the owners meeting, Dean, one thing that came up, and it has come up in the UFHL as well, is the that getting rewarded for a 10-minute misconduct or penalties in general. It's a negative thing. You put your team at a disadvantage, and you're getting rewarded in fantasy for penalty minutes. And certainly a 10-minute misconduct would have been equivalent to a goal or an assist. And certainly in the World Juniors, we know there's a lot of checking to the head, 2 and 10s. You don't want to see players that take a check to the head end up coming out with more points than somebody who scored a goal that game. So the decision was made to replace penalty minutes altogether with shots on goal at the same value, 0.25. So the way that would work, Dean, is obviously you need 4 shots on goal in a game to get 1 point. You would need, I guess that would be 10 shots on goal in a game. If you get 10 shots in one game, you would be equivalent to getting a goal, 2.5 fantasy points. And then the other big decision, Dean, was, again, how do we add value to all these guys? Because you're looking at the scoring system, and that's all you got to get on the score sheet. You got to get, goals, assists, points in order to have value. Well, we added shots. Every player is going to likely get some shots, the skaters. But time on ice, Dean, that's the big addition here at 0.05 fantasy points per minute played. So 20 minutes played gets you 1 fantasy point. And that's a big addition to the scoring system. Again, that gives you your players from Austria and stuff, your guys that are maybe on a perceived weaker country but are still going to play a big role for that country, get a lot of ice time, get special teams time, because everybody's got to play a role on every team. Now your ice time, especially your shutdown defenders and stuff, have that much more value by bringing time on ice into the UFWJ, and certainly led to a talking point of why aren't we bringing this and mirroring this in the UFHL. So I think that we could see some of these UFWJ scoring system changes also be reflected in future years in the UFHL.
Well, I think it's brilliant, just as brilliant as some of these flags that we're running through here. And it was a great discussion about statistics and also about, how, the pools will be discussed. It's a wide open tournament this year. Why don't we have a wide open pool? And then you sort out how the pools are next year.
For sure. And the other cool thing that came out of the meeting, Dean, or other talking point that came out of the meeting, was alignment. We didn't know, obviously the World Juniors, there's 2 separate pools for the preliminary round, then they're seeded going into the quarterfinals. But because this is total points rather than a head-to-head format for this year, for year 1, total points throughout the tournament, we decided to hold off on the alignment. It was discussed, and the owners preferred to do for year 2. Based on the year 1 standings, just go odds and evens. So at the end of this year's tournament, the franchises or countries that are ranked 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 will form Pool A for next year. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 will form Pool B for year 2, when we do hope to transition into more of a total points for the preliminary round to get sort of that seeding going, and then a draft prior to the playoff round or to the medal round. And then really, based on how they seeded in their respective pools to really mirror the real world. But yeah, definitely a very productive first owners meeting for UFWJ, and the scoring system changes are certainly going to hopefully have a positive impact on the overall values of every player in this year's World Junior Tournament.
Yeah, terrific production on the flags. And so, basing on that pool system, Arnie, you'll be in Pool B there when things get rolling after this year. Okay, so also I really think that there should be a big thank you to the founders when we get to our next topic, because they were very generous, and we do know about some of the payouts. And this was also something that was discussed at the meetings as well.
Yeah, Dean, and I think you're right about the founders giving 75% of the franchise auction revenue back to the prize pool. And the reason that was, Dean, is because the UFWJ, obviously there's only 2 weeks of gameplay every year for the actual tournament. From draft day to the end of the preliminary round, which will be the trade deadline, is on New Year's Day is the trade deadline. All trades have to be made before the medal round starts. So there's not a huge window there for transaction revenue. So you see here, Dean, the prize pool for year 1 is going to be a 10,000 USD prize pool worth of score coin. Prize pool for year 2, the founders are also putting up from the franchise auction a $5,000 carryover base for year 2. The franchises, the UFWJ franchises, will be paying a $550 USD entry fee for year 2, which combined with the $5,000 base will bring the prize pool back to 10,000 USD, Dean, plus all your transactions. And that's the one cool thing, is the off-season transactions, because your offseason starts on January 6th and it goes all the way till Christmas Day next year. So you got a lot of time to build up that prize pool as well, Dean. The franchises plan to do a 48 hours after the gold medal game this year. So that'll be January 7th. They plan on doing the deadline for next year's entry fee already, which allows them to stake that prize pool. And that'll allow for some rewards to help pump up the prize pool for year 2 as well, if it's staked for almost an entire calendar year, which is another nice bonus to being on the blockchain. But as far as payouts, Dean, go, for year 1, we're looking at gold, silver, and bronze medalists. $5,000 USD to the gold medalist. That's 70%, Dean, to the franchise, and 30% to the players representing that franchise. So that right off the top, the franchise gets $3,500 USD for winning gold. $1,500 goes to the 25 players based on their fantasy points. And when I say the players, that's whoever owns the gameplay contract for those players, whether they're being leased from a scout, from a UFW or a UFHL protected list, leased from there, or potentially, Dean, there might still be some open market players that are drafted tomorrow and Sunday. And those players, if you draft one player that nobody owns, your country and UFWJ then owns that gameplay contract, and that player's portion of the 30% would stay with the franchise. So you get the 3,500 plus the portion of any players that your franchise does own the gameplay contracts. And the other cool thing, Dean, the countries will get a physical medal as well. And I know Andrea Kranduk, who's serving as commissioner again for UFWJ, our great commissioner from the UFHL, she's hard at work designing and customizing these physical medals with Smack, one of our big partners on the trophy side. So each staff member, your ownership group, your GMs, your scouts, your people that are involved with your UFWJ franchise will all receive a medal just like they do in the real world. And then last but not least, Dean, player awards. $500 from the prize pool will go directly towards player awards. That'll pay out $200 to the tournament MVP. All 10 franchises, Dean, or 10 countries will submit a list of 5 MVP candidates. The name that's on the list the most times will be the MVP. If there's a tie, the franchises will break the MVP tie vote, as well as top forward, top defender, and top goaltender tournament will receive $100 each. And again, Dean, you're getting 70% to the franchise, 30% to the gameplay contract owner. So if Shane Wright wins the MVP of this year's tournament, $70 would go towards, if he's the top forward, $70 would go towards East End if you drafted him, and $30 would go towards high-level scouting, the gameplay contract owner for Shane Wright. So cool how the leasing system and revenue for scouts, revenue for players on protected lists are really going to come to light throughout the UFWJ tournament, and certainly afterwards when the payouts take place.
And all payouts are based on the players playing and what their performances are. So there's no payouts for the future players, the prospects that we're getting, or if players don't get hurt. I always use the Ryan Poehling example from last year in the playoffs where, he got the same cut as Carey Price, and that was a little bit different. So that's a really important thing to remember as well.
It is, Dean, that the player portion of the payout, that 25 players, so for the gold medal franchise, they'd be getting $1,500, and then that $1,500 is broken down based on percentage of fantasy points contributed. So again, if Shane Wright contributes 10% of East End's points, and we're already giving you the gold medal, Dean. Sorry, Arnie, we're using East End as the example, and apparently you're drafting Shane Wright. But in this theoretical, hypothetical example, if Shane Wright is on East End and he contributes 10% of East End's fantasy points, and East End wins the gold, he would earn $150, 10% of the $1,500 that would go towards the players. 10% would go to Shane Wright, $150. And now, Dean, if Shane Wright was a digital athlete NFT, that would be further broken down. $20 to high-level scouting as the gameplay contract owner, $20 to the NFT holder, as well as $20 to the athlete, to Shane Wright himself, if he were to win the MVP that way, or based on his, I guess in terms of the fantasy points, if it's $150 that he'd get, it'd be $50 each to the 3 different parties, the high-level scouting as the gameplay contract owner, NFT holder, and Shane Wright himself. So it breaks three ways if they're a digital athlete NFT. If not, the portion of revenue goes to the gameplay contract owner for that least portion.
And those numbers, when it comes to NFT holders and athletes, are just going to grow and grow over time. So it is such a really unique system where, you at home get to, you're on the same team because you want to make money off of the tournament, the dynasty. You want to win it. The player, just by doing their job, gets rewarded by it, and I just absolutely love it. And a lot of these guys are top prospects, and we're looking at these guys to end up in the UFHL in due time. And prospects is how it's something that we believe in at Duckman's Domination. But there's another franchise in the UFHL that you want to kind of shine the spotlight on this week for the work that they've done in retooling.
And that franchise is Strong Island, Dean, who was actually in the playoff picture earlier this season and has really faded in the OR division as well as the Legends Conference. They're significantly fading from the playoff picture. But the reason for that, Dean, is the lack of depth. They lost Alexander Barkov and Braden Point to injuries, and it was crippling. And they took notice, hey, if you want to win and you want to be a top 10 franchise or a playoff contender in the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League, you need that next wave of depth. You need, you need young talent coming up. And Strong Island has started to invest in their future, acquiring two top prospects, Dean, in Alex Turcotte, who, speaking of the World Juniors, he played for the USA at the past two World Juniors. He was a big part of the gold medal winning team last year. He had 8 points in 7 games at last year's tournament. So he goes from Rock Republic to Strong Island. And they also acquired Braden Tracy, who's off to a really hot start to his professional career with the San Diego Gulls, Anaheim's farm team, AHL affiliate. So Kamikaze sent Braden Tracy to Strong Island. So 2 more pieces next year, Dean, if these guys trend towards being top 6 forwards and NHL forwards, if Alex Turcotte's in LA and Braden Tracy's in Anaheim next year, when Alexander Barkov and Braden Point come down, while Strong Island just brings up Alex Turcotte and Braden Tracy, and they hit the ground running. But they certainly paid a pretty penny, Dean, as you can see, upwards of 10,000 score coin, over $1,000 USD per player to acquire Alex Turcotte and Braden Tracy, as well as giving up, quality prospects, Jeremy Poirier and William Dufour, who were both certainly on the radar for Canada's World Junior team this year. Braden Tracy was one of the cuts last year for Canada, but just, again, adding some quality prospects. And the big thing for Strong Island is building out that depth. They're starting to target these top prospects, and I think that's a sign that they're looking to the future. They also have Braden Holtby on the trade block during his bounce back season. So keep an eye on that and just look for Strong Island to maybe pull out of this year's playoff race and really start to add some depth for future years by acquiring these top prospects.
All right. When we talk about every point mattering in the UFHL, that's never more clear than what happened with the Players of the Week this week.
Yeah, Dean, talk about a photo finish for the Players of the Week. Mikko Rantanen of the Godfathers over Max Pacioretty of Dynasty by 0.01 fantasy points for Forward of the Week. 27.30 to 26.29. So yeah, so close there for Mikko Rantanen to pull it off for the Godfathers. And then same thing on defense, Dean. Roman Josi of the Kryptonites over Jacob Trouba of Kamikaze by 0.04 fantasy points for the Defender of the Week. Would have been Kamikaze's first player award, thanks to back-to-back Gordie Howe hat tricks from Jacob Trouba. But Roman Josi, that's his second award of the season. He's when you see him showing up like this, Dean, you have to think with Nashville playing well, Roman Josi's in the mix for another Norris Trophy. And then goaltender of the year, there was no contest here, Dean, with Thatcher Demko of the Can West Generals going back-to-back as goaltender of the week. First time this season a player's won back-to-back Player of the Week awards. And like I said, not even close. Led the entire UFHL with 32.60 fantasy points. Some people say goaltenders are undervalued. This week, Thatcher Demko outperformed any forward and any defender. And he was first on the listing. The next goaltender, 25th overall. He had to go to page 2 on Fantrax to find the next goaltender in the Players of the Week. And that was Frederick Anderson of the Kryptonites with 18.80 fantasy points. compared to Thatcher Demko's 32.6.
That's all filthy Bruce whispering sweet nothings in Thatcher Demko's ear out there. And, maybe Curtis Johnson whispering some sweet nothings to Thatcher Demko to get him going for the Generals. But good to see the Canucks have been fun to watch, which hasn't always been the case this year. Okay, let's get now to our 6-pack of top performers. And I love seeing a guy like Alex Pietrangelo up there for the Eliminators. Alex Pietrangelo is, I think, a great defenseman, but he hasn't been the offensive guy in Vegas. That's kind of gone to, over the last little bit of his career, it's been Shea Theodore. So it's nice to see that he's getting it done. The interesting thing that we were talking about, Larry, is when you look at that line right there, it would be hard to think how Alex Pietrangelo led the entire league this week in points with 28.07 because a goal, 4 assists, 12 shots, 8 hits. But check out some of these other stats. 12 penalty minutes, 8 hits, 13 blocks, 4 takeaways, 2 power play points. That's some plus minus. So it's not all about points like some people think. It's a lot about points, but you can hit a lot of other categories. Double digits in 3 other categories propelled Pietrangelo to the top this week.
Yeah, a lot of blocks. Those PIMs always help. Getting the shots. Alex Pietrangelo is one of those defensemen who's an all-around guy and does hit a lot of categories. And I was surprised, Dean. That's like I said, when I seen Pietrangelo at the top, I'm looking at that stat line, 1 goal, 4 assists. I thought, oh wow, this is a down week for scoring in the UFHL. But then when you look at the full stat line and you see all the other categories he hit with, like I said, double digits in blocks and double digits in PIMs, it all adds up to Alex Pietrangelo at the top and the way we do it, Dean, with the 6-pack is we go Friday to Friday for the 6-pack players of the week. Whereas the players of the week for elite prospects, that's Monday to Sunday. So we were recapping the awards for the week ending Sunday, December 12th. And now we're looking at the players live right up through last night's stats, Friday to Friday for Alex Pietrangelo and the Eliminators to be the player of the week or the 6-pack player of the week based on that timeline.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This is Friday to Friday as opposed to Monday to Friday. And then, so you're like, oh, Pietrangelo, that's interesting. The next guy on the list, there should be zero surprise. 5 goals, 18 shots on goal. It's not a mystery with Max Pacioretty what dynasty is going to get from this guy on a nightly basis. Shot volume. 18 shots on goal. Ends up with 5 goals, had 3 blocks, hit, but it's all about the shot volume with Max Pacioretty and Drake Batherson of the Tornadoes and the Ottawa Senators, picking up a lot of assists. And then everything else was kind of in the mid-range. He did not have double digits on anything else, but did spread himself out with a number of different stats. Let's move to page 2 of the 6-pack of top performers. And we're hearing a lot about the Gators lately, Larry. We are starting to see a lot more from the Gators. And I commend what Matt Gunn has done and especially the way he's been a professional about it and, hooking up with another team. But the Gators are really starting to have some momentum go their way. And JT Miller was the guy who led them in the last Friday to Friday. And he did it again with spreading out a lot of stats. Double digits in shots, but the rest of it kind of mid-range.
Yeah, JT Miller's been the most consistent and probably the best Vancouver Canucks player. He's their MVP to date, and he's been a big part of this turnaround under Bruce Boudreau. Obviously, Brock Besser's scoring again. Elias Pettersson's scoring again. Everything's turning up good for the Canucks, but also for the Gators. Again, we mentioned they got back Nathan McKinnon, and now guys like Miller are heating up again. So the Gators they're from, they were out of the top 10, then they were 10th. Then now they're not, now they're climbing in the top 10 this week again. And then they're, as Kyle Hall mentioned, the new host of UFHL Now, he mentioned that the Gators are a team that could, we're still not even halfway through the season, Dean. If they stay healthy, they could get potentially back into that top 5, depending on obviously the health factor and just guys like Miller continuing to play up to their potential.
All right, and I put this guy on here because this is really my last show. And what are you going to do, fire me because I put him on there? He's technically not on our UFHL roster, but he had a great week, and he is the goalie of our future. But I skipped Mikko Rantanen there, actually. I got too excited. So let's get to Mikko Rantanen first before we get to the goaltender. And this is another guy that's not a surprise to be on here. Him and Nathan MacKinnon were really, really close this week. But what do you make of Rantanen's run for the Godfathers?
Yeah, obviously we highlighted Rantanen as the forward of the week for the Elite Prospects Players of the Week, and kept it going. Between Monday and Friday of this week, Colorado's gonna fill the net the rest of the season, and certainly as long as Rantanen and McKinnon are paired, they're one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. And actually, Dean, you look at the six pack, the 1-2 was a Vegas 1-2 punch as well with Pacioretty. Like I said, he's been filling the net for Dynasty. And I think, again, with Pacioretty, he really wants to be on that. If the NHL goes to the Olympics, he'd like to be on Team USA. He's going to have a hot hand going into that Olympic selection process. But Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon, they always have hot hands with Colorado.
All right, let's get to that last guy on the list. And like I said, we would love to call this guy up. We just can't lose a goaltending spot right now. He's the goalie of our future. We have had teams reach out to us. I'm not saying he's going to be a Vezina trophy, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is really starting to play really well for a Buffalo team since getting called up. They've had all kinds of goaltending issues. We're really excited to see this guy, and we would love to get him in our lineup. And, at some point we're going to just have to make that call and call him up and risk losing a goaltender because he's playing so well and we want him in our lineup.
Similar to Igor Shesterkin with Red Army last season, maybe, where they left him down for so long and possibly cost themselves the regular season championship. But UPL, as he's affectionately known, obviously backstop Finland to gold at the 2019 World Juniors in Vancouver. He was so good in that tournament, Dean. I covered it live, watched him every game there. He was so impressive and just a big guy who really does have a big game ability. I think he can get to that. It reminds me a lot of another guy who came through Buffalo, and Robin Lehner, who's still a high-quality goaltender with the Vegas Golden Knights. Similar size, similar sort of style, I would say. But I really like UPL. I'm still high on him. His stock has kind of been up and down over, winning, backstopping World Junior Gold to, not playing very well in the AHL, and now getting his opportunity in the NHL. And as you mentioned, Dean, I wonder if Buffalo will ride UPL now. I mean, Buffalo's still kind of almost in the playoff race, which is surprising in itself. That the Sabres are doing better than people obviously expected. But Craig Anderson's been injured. Dustin Tokarski's been out with the COVID protocol. Aaron Dell obviously was not performing as expected this season, or he didn't bounce back. He's kind of been a tweener the last couple of years. Now he's in the AHL. So you're really looking at, depending Craig Anderson's health and Dustin Tokarski, who was playing well. But when you look at it, the future of the Buffalo Sabres is UPL. If he keeps playing good at the NHL level, I don't really see a reason to send him back down.
Yeah, well, hopefully they don't, and we can make. We've had some discussions trying to make room for him, and you never know. Maybe that will come through this weekend. All right, how about our top 5 stat leaders? We went with goals last week, assists this week, and I don't think anybody's terribly surprised about the guy at the top of the list. I think the guy at number 2 and the guy at number 4 might raise some eyebrows, but Nazem Kadri starting to really turn some heads, and Alex Ovechkin, he's going to just reinvent himself as an assist man. He had to pick up the slack for Nicholas Backstrom, but I love their TikTok video the other day as they were coming back. Well, I'm speaking of TikTok. I'm loving what the Jungle Boys are doing with UFFS TikTok as well. But I thought it was great to see Nicholas Backstrom get back. Now Ovi can shift over to goals again. But, what stands out for you on the top 5 assist leaders?
Yeah, I think that's it, Dean. Nazem Kadri, again, filling in. Like I said, Ovechkin kind of filling the void for Backstrom, and Nazem Kadri obviously getting that prime opportunity to fill in for Nathan MacKinnon alongside Mikko Rantanen and Gabe Landeskog when he was healthy. So, Kadri pumping out the assists. Kadri's been great for the Grizzlies, great for Colorado, and certainly Ovechkin as the Royals franchise player. And Kyle mentioned it earlier too, like Russian machine never breaks, right? Like everyone thinks, okay, all the talk about, he's going to slow down. He's going to, and maybe he won't score as many goals, but now maybe we see another element of his game. But hopefully he does take a serious run at the Gretzky goal record. And the way he started this year, I think he could be on course for another 40 or 50 goal season. And the way he's going with assists, he might get 100 points this season.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think he's going to catch Gretzky, but man, I want him to try it. And I'd love to be wrong, because what an exciting thing for somebody of our era to say we watched the guy set the record and then we watched somebody break the record. So records are made to be broken, and I never get sad when somebody breaks a record. I love to be wrong with Ovi on that one. Okay, let's get to our top 10 standings now. And I don't think there was any movement in the top 5 this week from what I remember. A little bit of shuffling in the back half, but it's so interesting. The 3 teams at 1,500 and the Titans every night. It's like they're the marathon runners. They just start lengthening their lead just a little bit. The Royals are still there. The Grizzlies are starting to fall a little bit back of that pace when it comes to the top 3 here.
Yeah, the Grizzlies had a big night last night to get to 1,500 fantasy points, but you're right. They were slumping alongside the Edmonton Oilers. You look at the Grizzlies lineup, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins, Cassian, Nurse, Bouchard. If the Oilers are losing and not scoring, then that's going to hinder the Grizzlies, obviously. And when the Oilers were 9-1, the Grizzlies were in first place. But you're right, the Titans were on a tear, and now the Royals are starting to nip at their heels again. There's only 10 points separating them heading into the weekend. As we mentioned, Ovechkin, Huberdeau, Matthew Tkachuk, although the Flames are sidelined now indefinitely, obviously. But the Royals have a lot of firepower. That Royals-Titans are looking like the 1-2 battle right now. And then you look overall, Dean, less than 300 fantasy points from 1 to 10. And as we mentioned, the Titans made up 150 fantasy points in a week when they went from outside the top 5 all the way to first. So it's not impossible that any of these 10 franchises could end up at number 1, because we're not even halfway through the season. And it is really close throughout the top 10. So it's going to be interesting to see where we stand a week from now. I don't have any predictions this week, Dean, as far as a couple weeks ago I said that look out for the Titans. They're coming to make it a 3-horse race on top. No predictions, but this top 10 here is basically the top 10 we've seen in the power rankings, other than Kamikaze, and sort of the way the season's been playing out so far. It looks like a strong bet to stay the top 10.
Well, and I looked the other day at the top 15, and from 11 to 15 or 10 to 15 was separated by like 79 points. That's not a lot of points in the grand scheme of things. So even those teams that aren't on this graphic in the top 10 are knocking on the door in the top 10. And, you just have to get on a roll, and, how you develop trades in the next little while, as far as, we talk about it, you get to that back half, especially with what's happening now. Games played are currency. That is so important. So you can make it up if you have a strategic, trading situation, as we are going to see a lot of games get made up down the road. So that's the top 10. We do have one other big story, and this is an exciting one that I know you and everybody in the hockey department is excited about.
Yeah, and hoping that the NHLers go to the Olympics, team, but Ultimate Fantasy International Hockey, UFIH, our version of IIHF, our governing body for all international fantasy hockey. And again, there is no real international, certainly not dynasty leagues for the Olympics, the World Juniors, the men's under 18s, the annual World Championships. But we're trying to bring dynasty fantasy hockey to the international-based events. And certainly we're planning on launching women's hockey, Dean, which is probably the most important part of the announcement with UFIH, is we are planning to do women's hockey for the Olympics. Again, providing the Canadian and U.S. Olympic teams are part of that tournament. But certainly the launch of women's hockey, as well as, just doing international events, which we are doing this weekend with the Ultimate Fantasy World Juniors doing their inaugural draft. But adding the Olympics as well is going to be a lot of fun going forward.
All right, and people can read as they just have to head to the UFF Sports website. Check out, so it's UFFsports.com. Check out the news section. You can read about our announcement with the Professional Hockey Players Association, some great basketball, baseball announcements. But here it is, the story that you put out there, and this is just so exciting. The press release can be found here, and just the thought of some of these great players, being able to see some of the best. We're seeing that rivalry series right now between Canada and U.S. Like I just, to be able to have a roster full of those great women is so exciting.
Yeah, and actually in the article I made sure to get in the overtime winner again the other night. She's Poulin's. She's been producing overtime winners all season long in this Canada-U.S. rivalry, but hopefully she can net a golden goal in China and Beijing as well to go with Sidney Crosby, because she's been awesome for the women's game. But yeah, certainly, all the possibilities, launching scouting for women's hockey, because we do, again, huge thanks and grateful, for Elite Prospects Partnership, the fact that we have the ability to scout women's hockey, because the female players are also an Elite Prospects database. So really looking forward to launching the scouting side and a futures auction for women's hockey. I think, anytime we can bring value to and spotlight and exposure to the women's game is going to be something that UFFS and certainly Andrea Karanduk, our commissioner, she played, CIS women's hockey. She had a brief pro stint in Slovenia. So she's been, at the pro level, at the university level. So certainly as a former high level women's hockey player, it's passionate for her as well to get the women's game going and to offer, because there is no real fantasy gameplay for women's hockey and certainly not on the dynasty level. So the launch of women's hockey, and like I said, knock on wood, NHL participation in the Olympics to do a dynasty league with all the NHLers as well, all leased from the UFHL franchises. But that would be a lot of fun. Keep everything going throughout February for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's hope that they can get everything under control and we can have that dynasty experience as well. And if there's anybody that does want to get in touch and reach out because they are finding out how amazing this is on Twitter at the UFHL, you can reach the scouting department at UFHL_scouting. Seriously, $20 open market players. If that player gets drafted for $2,000, that is major profit. And $2,000 is just the tip of the iceberg. So some really good stuff there. At UFF Sports in general is the all-encompassing Twitter account. And if you'd like some information, info at uffsports.com. And the website is www.uffsports.com. And it's a busy, awesome time for us with our NFTs. We have some of them available on Monday. It's going to be just absolutely awesome. I'm so excited. So people should definitely check out uffsports.com. And you mentioned it, Larry. We have to say thank you to our sponsors that allow this league to run so smoothly. Instat is our presenting sponsor. There we have Puckpedia. Big thanks to Hart Levine. We're going to have that system very soon. Fantalytica and EliteProspects.com providing our data and the great jerseys that we all will have. And I can't wait to get an East End jersey at some point through Maplewood Hockey. So a big thanks to all of them that allow us, certainly, and as you mentioned, some of them allow us to get all that data that we very much need to run these leagues.
For sure, Dean. And Andrea's hard at work with Hart Levine, getting the customized salary cap manager tool for the UFHL franchises. She's been working on that throughout this week, and it's getting closer to turning over to the franchises in the new year as well. And between now and the new year, Dean, like I said, this is our last UFHL show. We won't have one next week or the week after with the holidays. And the one thing that in the standings, Dean, I didn't want to make any predictions on the top 10, but one place to really look in the standings is the Gretzky division in the Allen Conference, Dean, and who's going to, what come the new year or come, Kyle's debut episode on January 7th of UFHL Now, who's going to be in playoff position there in the wild cards? Because it certainly looks like the Gretzky division is going to get 2 wild cards. They're going to sweep the wild cards, but last night, Dean, the Godfathers passed the Stallions for the second wild card spot. And you mentioned it. The CanWest Generals They have the first wild card spot right now. The Godfathers and the Stallions, they're all within about 20 or 30 points battling for those 2 wild card spots. And still the Battlehawks and Red Army are they could reel in those playoff seeds as well. So the Grizzlies have a good run on the top of the Gretzky division. They got a good gap. But after that, Red Army, Battlehawks, Can West Generals, Godfathers, and the Stallions are all neck and neck for 4 franchises for 3 playoff spots. So last week we really highlighted what was going on in the Legends Conference and the playoff race there. And now, now that the Allen Conference and certainly the Gretzky division has really heated up. So keep an eye outside the top 10 in that 10 to 15 range. Like you said, Dean, there's 4 franchises from the Gretzky division that are all battling for 3 playoff spots.
Well, it's going to be awesome, and as we always say, exciting times ahead. And I'm surprised. I thought I would have fired after show 35, but I made it to 40 shows, so I'm pretty happy. And in all seriousness, I'm really excited about Kyle taking over. As you know, my life is about to get a whole lot busier with UFLB, and I have to make sure I'm focusing on that. That has to be my first priority. But this has been so much fun. I've loved covering this league the way it deserves to be, because it is professional fantasy, and you're not done with me yet. You're stuck with me with 2 more shows. We'll have a UFWJ Ultimate Fantasy World Junior preview show on Monday, and then we'll have a year in review on New Year's Eve. Larry, this has been a blast doing this show with you. I loved working with you when we were on the Pipeline show, and you would join us, and to be able to get more and do this and realize exactly how similar we are has been kind of spooky, but this has been fun, man. And I know you're going to have a lot of fun with Kyle moving forward.
Absolutely, Dean, and congrats on a great run. You set the bar very high, and like we say, this league is that good, Dean. The Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League is that close to being a mirror of the NHL that it deserves the level of attention and coverage that the NHL gets. So great job getting UFSN going, yourself and Darren Bates, and really getting the UFHL Now podcast. That's part of the vision, seeing that, let's actually cover these leagues, because we always say nobody cares about somebody else's fantasy league. Well, this is the fantasy league. If you're into fantasy hockey, this is the league you want to care about. And I know even for myself personally, Dean, I have a hard time getting involved in my home leagues now, because everything is about the Ultimate Fantasy Hockey League. And that was part of the vision of bringing UFHL Now to really showcase the league. And it's attracted a lot of new people, a lot of new eyes onto the platform. So congratulations on getting UFHL Now off the ground. And it'll be exciting to hand the reins to Kyle in the new year as well.
Yeah, I don't play in any other fantasy hockey leagues now. That my sole fantasy hockey is Duckman's Domination. So thanks for this episode. For everybody out there, Kyle's going to do a great job, and Larry and I will be back for the UFWJ and the Year in Review. Have a good weekend, everybody.